Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings. Now, I haven't got a holly tree on my head. The truth be told, we've had a very heavy rainstorm and I've got the camera on a tripod underneath the holly and the ivy here to keep it dry. Welcome back here to a Gloucestershire woodland. We're here for the second autumn season. And I want to tell you more about the effect that autumn has on trees, why it's good for them, and the difficulties that they have managing through to winter. So why not join me again here on West Country Wanderings in a Gloucestershire woodland. Now I can see patches of blue sky above me, so I've braved the camera to move it out from there because it does look a bit tangly. Obviously you can see a bit more of the woodland here, and I'll give you some more tours of the woodland as we go on in today's video. We all know autumn for its colours, but it's essentially a lot more than just the colours. It's a transition period, like all the seasons, a gradual transition from one to the other. And it's really important from the tree's perspective to help them maintain their lifespan and to enable them to survive through the winter months. But why and how? I'm currently recording this in the second week of November of 2022. But if you just cast your minds back to a few weeks towards the end of the summer, particularly if you remember the summer, it was a very hot summer here in the United Kingdom. In fact, it was for most of Western and Central Europe too. We had an unprecedented heat wave. Well, towards the end of the summer, you start to notice that the trees are entering a strange mood. They're about to enter a strange phase in their lifespan or in their life cycle. Now, one of the things that we notice, of course, is the colour of the leaves. As you can see on this oak tree, which hasn't fully changed and it hasn't dropped its leaf yet, and I'll tell you more about how it drops that shortly, you can see the yellowing. And that's normally what we notice around September time. But now we're here in November, a lot of the trees have already lost their leaves. Now you may be asking yourselves, why are the trees in a strange mood? After all, normally, I don't enjoy summer, but normally most people enjoy the summer months. I find it too light and too hot. Perhaps I should be a tree. But I digress. The reason that the trees look forward to the end of the summer is because during the summer they've been very busy. You know that feeling when we've had a very long, hard day at work and you get home, you feel really tired and all you want to do is perhaps have something to eat, to drink, and to just rest and then get some sleep. Well, that's exactly how trees feel right at the end of the summer. Because of the long summer days, they've been creating the sugars from the light and the water and the food, and they're absolutely worn out. We all know that in the natural world, bears, dormice, lots of other species hibernate. But do trees hibernate during the winter? Well, they do to some extent, not in the same way that the animals do. They obviously can't bury themselves away, they're rooted to the spot. But they use the winter as a recuperation period. And the autumn is a preparation to enable them to rest during the winter months. So what about the colour of the leaves in the autumn from the trees? Where does that coloration come from? Well, I've mentioned this before. It's not actually a colour additive that the trees have put inside their leaves. It's the absence of the chlorophyll, which removes the green and then starts the breaking down of the tissues inside the leaves. So what you're seeing is the absence of the green. You're seeing effect through the leaves as that chlorophyll comes out of the leaves, and you're seeing the natural tissues of the leaves themselves. Now, this shutting off of sending the vital nutrients like the umbilical cord into the leaves means you're seeing the natural colours that were there before, but also you're starting to see the decay of the leaf itself. Now the other thing is that means that the tree, because it's not pushing it out to the leaves, has got a spare capacity of reserve, if you like, and it's storing that reserve because it's going to need that in the spring to be able to grow new leaf buds. Now, as we know, the natural world is an ecosystem, and things like aphids and beetles are seeking shelter to protect them from the winter months too. And one of the ways they do this, of course, is they bury inside the tree's bark. But they're very discriminate in which trees they use. They won't actually go for the trees with the brightest, most vigorous leaf colour. You all know the ones, when you go around the woodlands this time of the year, you can see really, really striking looking trees. Just show you a couple of examples. They're the ones they're actually going to avoid. You probably think that's a bit strange. But the reason they do that is because come winter time, they know that those trees are going to have the most vigorous growth, and therefore they go off toxins as they're growing, and that is harmful to the aphids and to the beetles. Well, I've had to come back underneath the holly and the ivy again. No, it's not Christmas, because it's just, we've got another shower here. It's been quite difficult filming this today, but hopefully be able to stay dry under here, and most importantly, keep the camera dry. So we've said about the deciduous trees, of course. We know that they have the leaf fall, and I'll talk to you more a little bit about the mechanics of that, because it's really quite interesting. But what about things like conifers? What about the trees that don't actually lose their leaves during the autumn phase? Do they do any changes to prepare for winter at all? Well, the simple answer to that is yes, they do. And when I was doing the research for this second autumn one in the Gloucestershire Woodland series, I really stumbled across a very, very surprising fact, which kind of, and there's always one fact which just really does that to me each time I'm learning about trees, because I just find the whole subject just incredible, really. And that is, if you think about your car, if you're getting your car ready for the winter months, there's several things that we do if you have a car. You'll look at the tyres, check they've got treads, tyre pressures, check the oil. the water in the water bottle. And the other thing you'll check, apart from obviously the brake fluid, lots of other things, is you'll check the radiator level. You'll check the water in the radiator, which keeps the engine cool, of course. But there's something in that radiator level you also check, and that is the antifreeze. And you're thinking, why am I mentioning that? Well, unbelievably, conifers actually put an antifreeze-like chemical into the needles. Now, if you think about it, during periods of hard frost, during the winter months, those needle tips, just like our own fingertips, if we went up to the North Pole without gloves from, we would be ending up with severe frostbite and could lose our own fingertips. And of course, the needles, the ends of them could break off. And obviously, if hundreds of do that, or thousands of them do it on a conifer tree, it's going to be in real trouble. They prepare for winter by actually injecting a chemical that they prepare themselves and put that into their needles to protect and give them sustainability throughout the cold, freezing winter months. Now, the other thing that the conifer trees do is they put a waxy-like substance, or encourage the needles to grow a waxy-like substance on the outside of the needles. And that's a kind of more obvious thing, in the sense that what that then does is it allows the water from the rain to run off really quickly. And the reason it needs to do that is because if it freezes and there's loads of water just sat on the needles, it can pull the tree down through the sheer weight and pull branches off and seriously do damage to the tree. So going back to the deciduous trees, what are the benefits of actually shedding those leaves and growing them again in a new season? Well, one of the major ones is, as I've seen today, at this time of the year, once you've come out of summer and gone past the early autumn, which can lead you into a false sense of security, once you get into the later October, November months, you get into the stormy period. Sometimes we do get a drier, more settled period around December, fingers crossed. And of course, because of those storms, if the tree hasn't lost a lot of its leaves or all of its leaves by the time of the heavy storms, it means it's going to become very, very vulnerable to attack. And the reason for that, of course, is the surface area. Because it shed the leaves off, it means the surface area that the wind can attack the tree has become greatly reduced, and therefore the thrust on the tree trunk against the roots has been minimized. The second reason for the loss of the leaves, why that's important as a tree. Now, if you think of this, when you go to your bedroom at night and you want to reduce the amount of light coming into the bedroom to enable you to sleep, you simply close the curtains. And the tree, by simply shedding its leaves, that's its source of light coming into it. So by shedding the leaf, it's actually switching down the light that's coming into the tree itself to enable it to rest in the winter months. So we've said about shutting down the chlorophyll, the sugars, and the water to the leaf to enable the leaf to stop growing and fall off. But we haven't said exactly how that happens. And the way the tree does this is quite simple. It grows some cells where the branch meets the stem of the leaf. So effectively, it forms a seal across it, blocking off the tissues to stop any of those essential nutrients reaching the leaf. Then all that needs to happen over a period of time is, because the leaf starts to dry out, it loses its water through evaporation, and you only have to have a gust of wind, it becomes brittle, and it comes off the tree and falls down to the ground. So we said that trees need to grow those cells across to protect themselves in winter by getting rid of their leaves in preparation for the next spring so they can recuperate for all the hard work that they've done during the summer months. But when do they know how to do that? Well, we've since learned that trees know how to count. Now, they don't pop along to H. Samuel or somewhere and buy a clock. What they do is use a chemical process, and they measure time by counting the days, and they count the days, of course, by the transition from dark to light, light to dark, like a binary method, using the light processes in them, so it's changing the chemical compounds, and when it reaches a certain chemical compound, they know that's the optimum time for autumn to start doing the transition ready for the winter period. That's not the only process that they use, because they also are able to become sensitive to temperature, and it's by using a combination of the light and the temperature that they try and strike the right balance to know when to start getting rid of their leaves. Now, just like air fryers are being talked about at the moment in order to get us to save, or to help us to save money with those big energy bills, another thing that's often be talking about in terms of woodland, particularly around the autumn months, is forest bathing. You've probably heard the expression, but don't fully understand what it is. I'll tell you a little bit about it. It actually comes from different Buddhist arts and methods. So it's established in Japan, and the Japanese call it Shinrin-yoku, and they actually brought that term out in 1982. So you can see it's quite a recent development, but it is from ancient practices in China and culture there in that part of Asia. It doesn't have anything to do with water. It doesn't mean you're actually going to sit in a bath inside of wood. That'd be a bit strange, but no, it's nothing like that. Just to let you know, I did a little video the other day, a couple of weeks ago, to do with mindfulness and photography. And if you have a look at that video, some of the techniques that I explain in that video are very similar to forest bathing. It means going into woodland like this one here in Gloucestershire and walking through it like you would, but not walking through it looking at your phone or thinking about what you're going to be doing when you get back home. It's about completely immersing yourself in the experience of the woodland by looking at the autumnal colours that we have around us, by listening to the sound of the trees, looking at the branches moving, feeling the textures of the leaves and the branches and the ground as we crunch across the leaves on the ground. It's using all of the five senses to invigorate us, to be completely enveloped in the woodland. I've mentioned before about the chemicals that trees release that can help us as well. So those two things combined really do help our mental and physical state by being there. So forest bathing, that's simply what it means. It's nothing, you can buy courses and all this type of thing, which seems ridiculous to me. All you need is a good pair of boots, some waterproofs this time of year, perhaps wrap up if it's cold, and that's it. Just take yourself off into the woodland. You can do it, with a friend, partner, but you do need to do it quietly. So if you're doing it with somebody else, you shouldn't really be having an active conversation with them. You do need to be completely absorbed in the woodland yourself. Well, I always enjoy coming to this woodland once every 3 months to bring you another instalment of a Gloucestershire woodland, and telling you a little bit more about what makes trees tick, what goes on behind the scenes, about what we can see on the outside, what's actually happening on the inside, and what are trees doing and why they're doing it. I hope you're finding it interesting. I certainly am. This is not knowledge that I inherently know myself. It's all something obviously I've learned through many books, and I'll put some of the sources that I've used today into the description of today's video. I hope you've enjoyed this tour again here on West Country Wanderings. Perhaps try forest bathing for yourself. Autumn is an ideal time to that. We'll soon be coming into the ravages of winter. We've only got another 2 or 3 weeks left of autumn before we start the long draw of winter. Ugh. Hopefully I will still be able to get out and film for you though, to bring you some content here on the channel. I'd love to know what you thought of today's video. Hope you can join me on the channel again. Perhaps consider subscribe or like, or perhaps join the Facebook, the West Country Wanderings group on Facebook. Just put in West Country Wanderings on Facebook and it'll come up, and I'll come along there, invite you into the group. Welcome to join that and share your own photographs of woodlands on there and video, as well as other things around the West Country area. I hope to see you again soon. Take care of yourselves, look after yourselves. All the best for now. Bye bye.